you're going to be able to get that dollar amount that's going to allow you to plug it in to your Omni ads in months 6 through 12, which is the scaling part. That is, whew. All right, let's talk about growing your brand awareness in the first 3 months, 6 months. Whoops, that's a little too crazy. 6 months, and ultimately 12 months ahead. And the reason why I draw these really distinct lines right here and right here is because I've seen these two different paths that people take. And as you can see, at the 12-month mark, you can be in totally different positions, by the end here. And it really takes just a couple of slight changes that's going to make this big of a difference. I'm going to talk about not just what to do, but how to do it here in this video. I'm also going to give examples of clients that I've worked with in the past that have done exceptionally well, so you can, basically steal from them, and we're just basically stealing from our frameworks that we've been using for years and years. But let me just dive into what the first section looks like here. In the first 3 months, the one thing that we lean into is give, and ask. Right? Even Gary Vee has talked about this forever. Give, and then ask. Why does this even work? Well, of course, it's the law of reciprocity. Human nature, especially, we are drawn to people who have given something to us first. So when someone gives you something, you are appreciative. You are thankful to that person, and there's almost this feeling to like give back to them. That's why we say thank you. That's why we give back. That's why we, hey, you did this for me, maybe I'll do that for you. So first and foremost, when it comes to giving, we want to give value, right? But what do we do when we give value? We break down what people are thinking about. We identify who exactly is our target audience. And what are the bag of emotions that they're currently dealing with, both the negative things, the stressful things, of course, and the positive and the exciting things. And we're able to knock those emotions out, which ultimately allows people to be like, whoa, they get it. They understand that I'm in this unique position. Maybe they were in a unique position like that too, or they've helped so many other people like my current situation, so they get it. And I'm just gonna write down emotions here, really just identifying. I'm using this mouse here, so don't judge me on my chicken scratch handwriting. But the first thing that we want to do when we're giving is identify people's emotions. When it comes to also giving, we want to ensure that we're not just identifying their position, but we want to introduce them to our own position, right? This is why we talk about an intro video. It's one of the best things to do. You could even look at, 4Ocean, which talk about feelings, right? They lean into the feelings of understanding that there's trash all across the ocean. So that's why right on the very first thing on their bio, it's on a mission to end the ocean plastic crisis. Over 40 million pounds of trash removed. This is one of my clients that we got to do content with. And even at the pinned top here, you not just see the emotions that are addressed, that we're all affected by, especially here on the coast, but you see their story, right? And that's the best way to introduce yourself. Share your story. Like, that stories make people relate to you, right? So how a trip to Bali turned into 30 million pounds of trash pulled from the ocean. And this is actually old, right? This is from 2023, and it's still pinned to the top of their profile for good reason, because look, they're still getting hearts and hearts and hearts from, that was 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, and so on and so forth. I believe this post also talks about, their story, just reintroducing themselves. Here's the founder here, and this is from 2022, even before. So whether you're doing a global effort like 4Ocean, you don't even have to be. Here's Sunny, who we worked with forever. Sunny is awesome. And look, she's not traveling the world getting a bunch of content as she solves the world crisis. She's in her bedroom. I think this might be a guest bedroom, but same thing, right? 89 weeks ago, still pinned to the top of her profile, introducing herself, being that relatable person. So we have to introduce ourselves. The last way that we want to give is by understanding what the market is doing. So not just looking at the individual's point of view, from their emotions and from our standpoint, but understanding on a whole what's going on with the market, especially in the real estate industry and basically every industry. Things are changing. There are constant questions, concerns that are coming up. A great thing to do is to hear people's objections, why they do or don't move forward with you. What's going on? What are they reading about on the internet? What are the social media algorithms feeding them? The good thing is, if we decide to work together, then of course we'll just tee you up. We'll do that market research for you, give it right to you on a silver plate, and all you got to do is, well, talk about it like you would with your target audience. And then ultimately, after we give, then is the time to ask. And there really is a time to ask, but I think how we ask is so important. Even when I ask for something, I still want to give in that way, and almost come at it from like a doctor's point of view, where I'm not just trying to sell them like a sleazy car salesman to be like, whatever car, I'm just going to shove it in your face and make it happen. No, I just want to really understand, is it an actual good fit for you to work with me, for my target audience? Are they truly my target audience, or were there some red flags up that I actually don't want to work with that person? Or it's the opposite. Hey, I really think this is a good fit. And for A, B, and C reasons, this is what's going on. And maybe we have a specific offer during that time of the year. I love looking at different times of the year to lean into, to lean into people's emotions, to lean into our expertise, and especially the market at whole. It just naturally is a nice way to get them into whatever it is that you're offering. So there could be different price points there, different offers involved, but ultimately it comes down to that person and you, and ultimately doing business together. I know that sounds so stupid simple, but putting this out there into your content, into your marketing, especially through social media, is so important. Because, by the way, think about if you don't ask. I worked with a woman. Her name is Chizzy Duru. And Chizzy has a ton, 569,000 subscribers. Just a huge amount. And Chizzy was coming to us because she ultimately realized that, hey, I'm really good at calling out people's emotions. They know who I am. I even talk about things that are happening in the space, but she wasn't making as much money as she ultimately knew she could with such a large audience. I forget exactly how much she had when we first got started together, but nonetheless, you just saw, 500,000 subscribers. What we did was we really identified, well, let's talk about it. What is the natural thing that people want? Like, know your target audience, and then let's ultimately offer them something, a type of call to action, something that makes sense for them to not only be impressed with you, but to be impressed to the idea of actually working with you. So I feel like I'm beating a dead horse a little bit. You know the importance of action. It's super important. And it's one of the main reasons why we're ultimately going to go from right here in the first 3 months to right here. And I know it doesn't look like much, right now, but ultimately, like I said, we're going to have this big of a difference if we take this top line trajectory. And that's what I want to show you. I'll tell you this: in the first month, it's a little sideways happy face. In the first month, your actions, and hopefully we work together so we can really clean this up and make it a no-brainer for people. Your actions are what are going to make the difference, the big difference between going from here to there. Because if you're just doing a good job getting the awareness on the front side, you're going to feel good about it, but it feels so much better. You're going to feel great about it if people are actually taking action with you, becoming leads, and ultimately buying from you. From months 3 to 6, this is probably one of my favorite moments, because in the first 3 months, we're going to be posting this type of content that's going to give you the initial boost that you really need. That's why we call it social boost. But from months 3 to 6, we already have data to help our creative ideas be that much stronger. And this is the time where we're going to do a couple of things. First off, we're going to reinvest. And of course, the content that we know is working exceptionally well. We're going to cut out anything that may be underperforming, replace it with, the content that is showing us, hey, these are standout videos, these are standout posts. People are really enjoying this content. Maybe we even got a new client from the content that allows us to look back and reinvest our time, reinvest our money into those better areas. And then also repurposing. So looking at other platforms, not just the first 2 that we would get started with, but looking at additional platforms, so that way we can take the energy that we're putting out there and start to multiply it over time. We don't really do that in the first 3 months as much. Keywords as much. We are doing it for the top 2 platforms. Maybe that's Facebook and Instagram, which will, ensure that we get locked and loaded when we do work together. But we'll look at a 3rd platform, a 4th platform. Maybe if we start with Facebook and Instagram, then we look to YouTube, then we look to X, or depending on your target audience, what platforms they use. it's not just about doing more and more and more. It's about being smart and allocating our time and resources in the proper areas. Because let's say that you like the idea of being on LinkedIn, but they don't necessarily spend as much time on LinkedIn as they do on YouTube. That's okay. What we don't want to do though is be posting to LinkedIn and getting minimal engagement, and all of a sudden it's actually showing your brand in a less than an ideal way. If you're only getting 2 or 3 likes on a post just because not as many people are on that platform or are using that platform as much. So reinvesting our time and money, and then of course repurposing our content. That's really on the team side of things. And then lastly, the one thing that I really like here in months 3 to 6, especially after we give your brand a nice boost in the first 3 months, is, oh, I love this one, collabs, right? Not just growing your profile and allowing people to see you on your profile, but going to other people's profiles who have already started to grow their awareness and to collaborate with those people. Um, you know, uh, it can be a great way to really expedite the process, not just to again wait for people to come find you, but you're going to them, going to those established platforms, and really leaning off the respect of other people. So this is if we do, if we, not if, but when we do these well, we have a really big difference here, and this is just the compound effect of, are we making the right decisions from the get-go that's going to allow us to be on this upward trajectory? Um, I've talked about ads before. Ads can be a really great way to reinvest our money into content that we know is performing better. And then lastly, let's talk about months 6 through 12. Not only will our content from months 1 through 3 be continuing to build on the content that we do through months 3 through 6, but ultimately we're going to be able to look at this new phase with a type of established brand that's going to allow us to do two things. Number one, it's going to allow us to get on to even bigger collabs. I'm just going to put big C, but even big C's there. Big C's are, even you even see actors doing this for their movies. Whenever they're trying to really promote something, they hop on the Jimmy Fallon, Tonight Show. They're hopping on these big platforms because they already have this well-established brand, but they know that Jimmy Fallon has this whole other massive network. Well, Jimmy Fallon's not just going to allow you to hop on his show just because you want to. You have to have the credibility to do so, and that's the same just rule of token for a lot of bigger podcasts, a lot of bigger platforms, and we'll find those bigger collaborators with you once we're able to build up your brand. But the other thing that I really get excited about here, whether you want to be on those bigger platforms or not, let's say you're like, you know what, I have zero interest in doing that, I don't want to, or you get fired up on it. Either way, we're going to be able to look at a second note that just is probably my favorite thing. It's what allowed me to scale my marketing business from just me back in the day to growing a team of more than 100 people. And it really comes down to, I would just say, Omni ads. Omni ads are based off of the word omnipresence. Omnipresence is where you're basically everywhere and you're just the go-to person and everyone knows it. The reason why we have this in the third section here, for months 6 through 12, is really because we're going to be able to learn so much more in those beginning stages. If you're running ads in the first time here for months 0 to 3 or from months 3 to 6, there's going to be so much learning that happens from what hooks work in the ads, what body, meaning the middle of the ad that really keeps someone's attention, and lastly, the call to actions thereafter. Omni ads are a great way for you to just, let's take it from a local standpoint, and this applies at a nation as a whole. I was even doing international ads when I was scaling up my company because I wanted to have creatives from all over the world. And I would run ads in across Europe. I would run ads in London. I would run ads in Ireland because I wanted to have talent in different time zones. But even from a local standpoint, you could almost imagine Omni ads just being like, man, they're running ads on the top platforms. They're running ads in places that I wouldn't expect them to. And most importantly, from your point of view, you're running ads in the most profitable way possible. Every single person that I work with, we really focus on 4 KPIs. The 4 KPIs, and maybe I think we already talked about this, might be already known, is here, let me use a different color because this is important. And let me use a nice green color here. All right. So first and foremost, your reach. How many people are you reaching consistently? And from those people that are ultimately being reached, how many of them are becoming new leads? We want new leads, not just existing leads. That's a whole different, marketing ballgame that I'm happy to help with. But if I can get new people on the radar for you and make their first impression of you be that much greater, we're going to be in really great shape because that's going to allow you to just, well, do what you do best, which is, operate business as usual and continue getting better at it. But from those new leads, we want to ensure that they aren't just new leads, but they're high quality leads. That's why I like the third aspect to be show ups. They actually, show you that they're interested and they show up to the thing. The last one is so important, and this is the home run here. Four bases are the closes. These are the four things that we really look at. We are on the same page. If whether you work with me or you work with any marketing agency, ensuring that these four KPIs are noted on, if it's not a weekly basis, it better be every other week, just because they're everything. Like this is the the ticket to your business doing well. If you don't know, like let's say going back to that silly idea of, even if I'm a restaurant, how many people know about my restaurant? How many people are showing interest in that restaurant, actually showing up to it, and ultimately buying from it, right? And there is that whole secondary, just a little spoiler alert, there is a whole like back end marketing tactic to be like, hey, we don't want them to just close once, but we want them to, refer a friend. We want them to buy again, which is basically refer and then repeat and so on and so forth. But just even focusing on the first four things that we would get started with, these are just absolutely crucial. And once you get this close, you're going to be able to get that dollar amount that's going to allow you to plug it in to your Omni ads in months 6 through 12, which is the scaling part. That is an exciting moment. So I really, just to say, you will be able to achieve it here in months 3 through 6. Depending on your sales cycle, you might even get it here, depending on how hot your leads are. You're just going to get it at smaller scales here, a bit bigger here, and then massively here. Because, and by the way, you don't run ads that don't work, or at least I don't. I know there are companies out there. I've sat on board meetings with international brands before, and it drives me insane where these really big teams, I can't say the company's name, but these really big teams think they know so much, when really they're not pushing the revenue. They're not, and really the bottom line either. Like how these marketing teams can ultimately be like, hey, we just need to put more and more money into it. That's not a very mature conversation to have. The mature conversation to have is, when we put the money in, how much are we making back? And that's what's going to allow us to go from this, starting point down here and ultimately grow from a reach perspective, a leads perspective, and ultimately at the end of the day, growing from a money perspective and impact. Like that, when someone closes with you, that's when you get to change their life, which is sweet. I'm not just in it for the money here. We gotta use business for good. I think the caffeine's kicking in, but I'm freaking on fire and I'm loving it. So hopefully this is making sense for you. Of course, I've worked with people for years and years and years. Even, Sonny, who I mentioned, we worked together for, what was it, 6 or 7 years. Same thing with Damon John from Shark Tank. I love working with people much further than even the 12-month mark, but hopefully this gives you a good idea of what it looks like to grow your brand in the first 3, 6, and 12 months. If you have questions, or better yet, when you have questions or even ideas that you want to share, please write them down, type them out, and share them, because I'm happy to talk about it. But nonetheless, this should give you a pretty good idea. If you have questions or ideas, we'll chat soon. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks.